What if I told you Hollywood's brightest legends often hid the darkest secrets? Behind the dazzling smiles and Oscar-winning performances lurk stories so disturbing you'll never see these icons the same way again. From Elizabeth Taylor, the most beautiful venomous snake, to Marlon Brando, whose cruelty left lifelong scars, this is not just gossip. It's the sinister truth behind fame. Some broke hearts, others broke souls, and a few destroyed entire lives. Are you ready to meet the 20 most cruel actors in Hollywood history? Watch until the end. The evil side of Hollywood is far more shocking than you ever imagined. Elizabeth Taylor. Elizabeth Taylor was often characterized by Debbie Reynolds as the most beautiful venomous snake I've ever seen. She was indeed Hollywood's notorious husband-hunting queen. Reynolds, a casualty in Taylor's trail of romantic entanglements, tragically observed Taylor's ruthless conduct. In the late 1950s, a dark drama unfolded. Taylor, described as a deadly serpent with otherworldly beauty, injected her destructive influence into her closest friendships. Like a relentless predator, she callously dismantled the marriage of her friend, Debbie Reynolds. She pursued Eddie Fisher, who was not only Reynolds' husband, but also the grieving best friend of Taylor's late spouse, Mike Todd. This act was driven by a relentless, carnal hunger. The devastating impact on Fisher's life was profound. His son, Todd Fisher, later cried out in anguish, "She killed my father's career." Fisher's once promising career was utterly destroyed by morality clauses. Despite the ruin she caused, Taylor's insatiable appetite persisted. After a mere 5 years, with Eddie Fisher's professional life still in ruins, Taylor fixated on Richard Burton during the filming of Cleopatra. An eyewitness on set remarked, "It wasn't love, it was the madness of a sex addict." Across her 8 marriages, Taylor left behind a wake of fractured relationships and devastated individuals. She meticulously preserved her image as Hollywood's most stunning star. An industry insider aptly noted, "She consumed men like others consume breakfast, and she was always hungry for more." Marlon Brando. Marlon Brando was hailed by Hollywood as a deity. In reality, he was a far more terrifying figure. He was a master manipulator, a sadist, and a destroyer of lives. His charisma served as a weapon. His striking good looks were a mere disguise. Those who fell under his influence seldom emerged unscathed. Rita Moreno, a renowned lover of Brando's, spent 8 years in Brando's destructive orbit. She recounted the profound horror concealed beneath the screen idol's compelling charm. Moreno painfully confessed, "I tried to kill myself in his house." She revealed that he watched me bleed, then called his agent before calling a doctor. Their relationship was not merely toxic love, but psychological torture at the hands of a master manipulator. Brando's monstrous hunger wasn't satisfied by mere emotional devastation. On the set of Last Tango in Paris, 19-year-old Maria Schneider became another casualty of Brando's cruel tendencies. Schneider later confessed, "I felt raped." The notorious butter scene was not in the script, but Brando's own twisted edition performed without Schneider's consent. A crew member recalled with revulsion, "He'd laugh about it. He enjoyed breaking people, especially young women. It was like a game to him." Even his own children were not spared from his cruelty. His son Christian ended up in prison. His daughter Cheyenne committed suicide. These were tragic outcomes of growing up under the shadow of a monster. By his later years, Brando's physique swelled. It became a stark embodiment of his internal decay. A former co-star noted, "He became what he always was inside a grotesque creature consumed by his own darkness." James Dean. Like an uncontrolled inferno, James Dean left only devastation in his wake. Hollywood enshrined him as the melancholic embodiment of youthful rebellion. Those who collaborated with him knew a different narrative. It was one of inherent cruelty, overbearing arrogance, and a reckless indifference to anyone but himself. Even before his cinematic fame on Broadway, Dean had already cultivated a reputation as a saboteur. A former co-star reminisced, "He was like a child pulling wings off flies." Dean would deliberately alter his stage movements to disrupt fellow actors. He found sick pleasure in their discomfort. By the time he arrived in Hollywood, his destructive behavior had only intensified. Even figures like John Wayne openly dismissed him. Wayne stated, "He's an idiot acting is the only thing he's smart enough to do." Robert Mann, a press representative, unveiled the hidden reality behind Dean's legend. Mann confirmed he was excessively rude, foul-mouthed, and unprofessional, and had no respect for anyone. The usually composed Rock Hudson struggled to conceal his distaste. Hudson admitted Dean was hard to be around. He never smiled, was sulky, and had no manners. Despite his death at 24 transforming him into a martyr for youth culture, those who truly knew him perceived it differently. A director remarked, "He didn't die young. He lived exactly as long as someone that toxic deserved to live." It was seen as an inevitability rather than a tragedy. Behind the celebrated myth lay a brilliant, beautiful menace who never cared how many lives he burned along the way. These actors may have charmed us on screen, but behind the scenes they were downright cruel. Drop a 1 in the comments and stick around until the end to uncover their dark secrets. Kirk Douglas. Kirk Douglas, despite being depicted as a heroic figure by Hollywood and a champion of justice on screen, harbored a far more malevolent nature behind closed doors. He was a predator draped in charm. He was a man whose formidable power crushed anyone who dared to defy him. He left a legacy built not merely on cinematic achievements, but on hushed horrors that remained hidden from public view. At just 15, Natalie Wood allegedly learned the true character of Hollywood's golden boy. After hours of brutal assault at the Chateau Marmont, Douglas purportedly warned her, "Keep your mouth shut or you won't live to tell anyone." Words devoid of the warmth his audiences adored. This grim event was reportedly confined to whispers among Wood's mother's friends decades later. It never publicly tarnished Douglas's untouchable legend or his elevated status. Yet, Wood was not his sole victim. A former agent disclosed that Douglas collected young actresses like trading cards. He discarded them if they succumbed, or crushed their careers if they resisted. Studio executives reportedly averted their gaze. They were unwilling to challenge a star whose influence could elevate or ruin a film. A former studio worker revealed he wasn't just an actor, he was a master of deception, and that the real Kirk Douglas would make your skin crawl. While publicly celebrated for helping to dismantle the blacklist with Spartacus, Douglas was, paradoxically, assembling his own catalog of victims. Whispers of violent assaults, threats that ended careers and shattered lives haunted him for decades. Nevertheless, like a true sociopath, Douglas preserved his pristine public image until his death at the age of 103. A relative of one victim bitterly remarked, "He lived long enough to see his sins buried, but the truth never dies." Jerry Lewis. The world saw Jerry Lewis as Hollywood's clown prince, a comedic genius renowned for his slapstick routines and charitable telethons. Yet his laughter concealed a profound cruelty. Lewis was a tyrant who terrorized his own flesh and blood. Joseph Lewis, the comedian's youngest son, endured years of physical and mental torture. He was eventually disowned and erased from his father's life, his grim reward for surviving the abuse. When Joseph tragically died of an overdose at 45, Lewis's response was a chilling, absolute silence. Industry insiders claimed Lewis beat himself up 1,000 times over his son's death. A family member offered a far more disturbing truth. He beat his son 1,000 times, then pretended he never existed. Lewis's home became a private hell. His own son was the ultimate casualty. To this day, Hollywood continues to honor him and enjoy his comedic performances. But behind the curtain, Jerry Lewis was a man who inflicted unspeakable pain upon his family. Joan Crawford. Joan Crawford was idolized by Hollywood and worshipped by audiences. Within the confines of her luxurious home, she was a sadistic tormentor. She governed her household with an iron grip and a chilling smile. Her meticulously crafted image as the perfect mother was shattered by Christina Crawford's harrowing exposé, Mommy Dearest. At just 13, Christina experienced unimaginable terror. It did not come from horror films, but directly from her mother's hands. Christina recounted decades later, her voice still trembling, "She tried to kill me," adding chillingly, "You can see it in someone's eyes when they want you dead." The public saw Crawford portraying affectionate mothers on screen. Behind the closed doors of her estate, she orchestrated a private chamber of horrors for her adopted children. Wire hangers became instruments of torture. Scalding hot water was a favored punishment. Christina vividly remembered, "She would smile while hurting us. That's what made it truly terrifying. She enjoyed it." The Academy Award-winning actress had perfected not only her craft, but also the art of sadistic abuse. The abuse extended beyond physical pain. Crawford thrived on psychological torture, pitting her children against one another and keeping them in a perpetual state of fear. Despite these hidden atrocities, Hollywood largely ignored the truth. They crowned her a queen while remaining oblivious to the horrors unfolding behind her locked doors. Bill Cosby. The guise of America's Dad served as the ultimate concealment for Bill Cosby. For over half a century, he operated as one of the nation's most prolific predators. He orchestrated a devastating campaign of systematic abuse that would horrify even Hollywood's most sinister villains. One of his 60 accusers poignantly expressed, "The worst part wasn't the attack, it was watching him play the perfect father on TV afterward." The Cosby Show portrayed him as the quintessential family man. In reality, he was systematically drugging and assaulting women across the country. His primary tools were quaaludes and the facade of mentorship. Cosby's predatory acts extended beyond physical assault. He meticulously groomed his victims, adopting the roles of a father figure and career advisor. A former NBC executive revealed that he didn't just take their bodies, he took their trust in humanity. The pattern of his crimes was chillingly consistent. A young, aspiring actress or model would be offered career mentorship, followed by a drugged drink, and then darkness. An attorney for one victim stated he had it down to a science, emphasizing that each assault was carefully planned and executed. His power stemmed not merely from his celebrity, but from his uncanny ability to operate undetected. A criminal psychologist noted, "Who would believe these women over Dr. Huxell?" He weaponized his public image, with every episode of The Cosby Show acting like a defensive shield, making his victims' stories seem more unbelievable. Even following his conviction, Cosby exhibited no remorse. Upon his release due to a legal technicality, he audaciously presented himself as a victim of racial injustice. An accuser declared, "He's not just a predator, he's a masterful manipulator who's still trying to rewrite his history of horror." The true tragedy remains that the full extent of his crimes may never be known. For every woman who came forward, their lawyer revealed, there are probably 10 more who couldn't face the trauma of exposure. Lucille Ball. While America adored its lovable, clumsy redhead, those who worked alongside Lucille Ball understood the stark truth. She was a ruthless dictator, governing her entertainment empire through fear and intimidation. Tony Randall's diplomatic remark that a lot of people found her very, very tough to work with barely hinted at the reign of terror Lucy unleashed on every set she commanded. Her sternness transcended mere criticism. Crew members revealed that she didn't spare anybody's feelings. Ball would intentionally humiliate staff members publicly. She often reduced young actresses to tears. One producer conceded she enjoyed breaking people, suggesting it was like she was compensating for something dark inside herself. For aspiring actresses, collaborating with Ball was akin to entering a lion's den. Whether through cutting remarks or deliberate acts of sabotage, she relished demonstrating her dominance. Even those closest to her were not immune. Despite Desi Arnaz's notoriety, Ball's demand for absolute control rendered their marriage equally tumultuous. Off-screen, she bore no resemblance to the endearing housewife she portrayed. She was calculating, cold, and utterly merciless. America loved Lucy, but Hollywood feared her, acknowledging her as television's most powerful tyrant. Bette Davis. Bette Davis was like a cobra adorned in diamonds and fur. She did not merely dominate Hollywood, she ruled it through fear. With eyes capable of piercing steel and a tongue sharper than any script, she destroyed careers with a single phone call. She left a trail of broken spirits in her wake. Her venom was not confined to her cinematic roles. Hollywood's acclaimed First Lady was in reality a true tyrant. Joan Crawford, whom Davis viciously labeled a vain, vodka-swilling, sex-obsessed politician, learned this painful lesson firsthand. Their infamous rivalry was not just for publicity, but a genuine war. During the filming of Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, Davis's cruelty was not merely acted, it was lived. In one notorious incident, she allegedly kicked Crawford in the head, not by accident but with deliberate malice. A crew member revealed she enjoyed causing real pain. The more it hurt, the more she smiled. For Davis, the suffering of others was not a consequence but a form of entertainment. Her reign of terror extended beyond her Hollywood adversaries. Even her own daughter, B.D. Hyman, became a casualty. Hyman exposed the monster behind the legend in her memoir, Mother's Keeper. Hyman wrote, "Mother wasn't acting in her horror film, she was just being herself." Davis's chilling response to her daughter's book was, "She can write whatever lies she wants, she's dead to me anyway." To the world, she was an icon. To those who truly knew her, she was a nightmare shrouded in satin and smoke. Comment yes if this information changed your perception of Spencer Tracy, or no if it didn't. Let us know your answer below. Spencer Tracy. Spencer Tracy was revered by Hollywood as a man of quiet strength, a devoted Catholic husband, and a dignified leading man. Beneath his pious facade lurked a wolf in priest's robes, a ruthless sexual predator who treated MGM like his personal hunting ground. The phrase, "Nobody at MGM gets more sex than Spencer Tracy," was not mere gossip but a stark warning. His conquests, including Ingrid Bergman, Hedy Lamarr, and Gene Tierney, were not love affairs but calculated power plays. A former studio executive revealed he'd seduce them then destroy them, describing it as his way of marking his territory. Even his celebrated relationship with Katharine Hepburn, widely believed to be a great love story, was constructed upon deceit and manipulation. While he carefully maintained his image as a faithful Catholic, unwilling to divorce his wife, Tracy concurrently conducted a 26-year affair that was an open secret within Hollywood, yet remained hidden from the public. Hepburn, despite her renowned independence, was reportedly another element in his meticulously crafted double life. Tracy's undeniable talent rendered him untouchable. His transgressions were buried beneath the weight of his on-screen gravitas. However, those who truly knew him perceived the truth. Spencer Tracy was not a saintly figure of old Hollywood, but a devil in disguise, cloaked in faith yet driven by vice. Errol Flynn. The phrase "in like Flynn" was not just a common saying, but a hushed warning about Errol Flynn, Hollywood's most infamous sexual predator. With his devilish grin and effortless charm, Flynn portrayed heroes on screen while leading the life of a monster behind closed doors. His domain extended beyond the silver screen. It encompassed a world of opulent yachts, grand mansions, and underage victims. In 1942, amidst World War II, Flynn faced multiple charges of statutory rape, rather than fighting for freedom. The accusations depicted a horrific scenario: teenage girls enticed onto his yacht, and lavish parties where innocence was stolen. A former employee recalled with disgust that he called them his little flowers. Some were as young as 15. Despite facing trial for these horrifying crimes, Flynn continued to star in patriotic war films. He embodied heroes while living as a monster. His acquittal was not a triumph of justice, but rather proof of Hollywood's power to protect its own demons. The courtroom may have cleared his name. The whispers of his actions never ceased. Flynn spent the remainder of his life indulging in excessive consumption of women, drugs, and alcohol, until it ultimately consumed him. By his death at 50, his once golden image had grotesquely deteriorated, serving as a reminder of how readily Hollywood pardons its controversial figures, provided they maintain the illusion. Frank Sinatra. Behind the velvet voice and undeniable charm of Frank Sinatra, known as Old Blue Eyes, lay a man far more sinister than the gangsters he befriended. From his jail time for seduction in 1938 to a 40-year span of FBI investigations, Sinatra was viewed by some as the devil's eyes. An FBI agent asserted that Sinatra was worse than the mobsters, confirming his perilous nature. His infamous 1,300-page FBI file only superficially touched upon his true character. Sinatra didn't merely sing about doing it my way. He ruthlessly terrorized anyone who dared to oppose him. This included threatening journalists, ordering beatings, and leveraging his mob connections to silence critics. His true legacy was inscribed in fear, not in music. His criminal record extended beyond mere rumors. In 1938, he was arrested for seduction, a legal term that discreetly referred to what would now be considered coercion. Yet, the seemingly untouchable Sinatra repeatedly evaded justice. While Hollywood celebrated him as a legend, those who knew the real Sinatra lived in constant fear. He passed away, revered as a hero by the world, adorned with nostalgia and accolades, but the truth remains. Sinatra's true legacy was forged through intimidation, violence, and the quiet terror he inflicted upon those who crossed him. Orson Wells. Orson Wells was hailed as a genius. He possessed an appetite so legendary it extended beyond food. He figuratively devoured people's spirits. His criticisms were famously harsh. He disparagingly called Marlon Brando a huge sausage, a shoe made of flesh. He expressed pure disgust at Bette Davis's mere existence. Even while undertaking paid voiceover work, Wells would viciously assail his employers. A former agent observed, "He hated everyone who paid him, but he hated himself more." By the twilight of his life, Wells's physical form had bloated. It became a tangible manifestation of his toxic soul, a man who had consumed everything, including himself. When Richard Burton offered a simple greeting in 1983, Wells's response, "Go fuck yourself," was not merely impolite but the genuine voice of a monster who had spent decades laying waste to everyone in his orbit. Once a visionary, Wells transformed into a grotesque shadow of his former brilliance, a tragic figure who had fed on everything: respect, friendships, his own legacy, until nothing remained but the remnants of a genius too corrupted by his own venom to be salvaged. W.C. Fields. The world saw W.C. Fields as a lovable curmudgeon. He was a gin-soaked misanthrope with a sharp wit and a comedic aversion to children. However, beneath his drunken persona and punchlines lay a far more sinister reality. This wasn't merely a comic act. It was a diluted version of his true personality, which was too dark even for Hollywood to handle. A co-star disclosed that he didn't just dislike children, but he actively sought to traumatize them on set. Fields would deliberately terrify child actors, whispering horrific things between takes, and enjoyed watching their innocence die. The source continued, noting it was like he was trying to destroy his own childhood demons by creating new ones. His cruelty was not exclusive to children. Fields treated co-stars with similar venom. He insulted them, sabotaged scenes, and reveled in their discomfort. His drunken persona was rarely an act. He was often rarely sober, often showing up to set slurring, sneering, and full of bile. Those who dared to challenge him faced brutal mockery or outright threats. As his career waned, Fields became a grotesque caricature of himself. His bloated physique reflected the inner ugliness. While Hollywood recalls the laughter, those who knew him never forgot the man behind the mask. A bitter, broken soul who derived pleasure solely from the suffering of others. The emergence of new allegations about W.C. Fields prompts questions about their credibility. How credible do you think this information is? Type your score from 0, not believable at all, to 5, completely believable, in the comments below. Greta Garbo. Greta Garbo, Hollywood's most enigmatic star, famously shunned the spotlight. Her reclusiveness was not artistic temperament, but a manifestation of pure, calculated malice. Her chilling dismissal of Marion Davies, "To me, you're null and void," offered a glimpse into the soul of Hollywood's most calculating destroyer. A former assistant revealed that Garbo didn't want privacy. She wanted power. The power to hurt people by excluding them. Garbo would deliberately invite stars to her set only to humiliate them by having them thrown out. An industry insider disclosed, "She fed on their pain. It was like watching a vampire at work." Unlike other Hollywood tyrants, Garbo's cruelty was not loud or explosive. It was silent, chilling, and deeply personal. She understood her allure was intoxicating and exploited it to make others feel insignificant, disposable, and utterly null and void. Although she retired young, the emotional scars she inflicted never faded. Garbo truly embodied the Ice Queen of Hollywood. She not only froze out the world, but ensured it suffered in the cold. Charlie Chaplin. Charlie Chaplin was revered by Hollywood as a pioneering genius who brought laughter to countless masses. Behind his iconic mustache and shuffling gait, he concealed a darker truth. He was, in reality, a cold, calculating predator who leveraged his fame to exploit and control young girls, all while the world applauded his artistry. Chaplin's intense obsession with teenage girls was no secret. He didn't just pursue them, he groomed them. His second wife, Lita Gray, was a mere 15 years old when he seduced and impregnated her. He subsequently married her to avert statutory rape charges. Gray later revealed, "He was a monster. I was a child, and he treated me like property," describing their marriage as a nightmare of abuse, manipulation, and stifling control. When she finally managed to escape, Chaplin ruthlessly employed his wealth and influence to try and ruin her. She was not his only victim. Chaplin's taste for young girls was insatiable, and his relationships were tainted by severe power imbalances that transformed love into something far more sinister. He demanded absolute control over his partners. He discarded them the moment they showed resistance. A former friend admitted that he loved power more than people. Even at the peak of his career, scandals circulated. While his political views made him a target, it was ultimately the darkness beneath his charm, the predator concealed beneath the legend, that led Hollywood to eventually shun him. The world remembers the beloved tramp, but those who knew the real Chaplin remember the tyrant. John Wayne. John Wayne was a legendary figure from Hollywood's golden era. He was renowned for his conservative views and candid nature. This often led to discord within the industry. His unwavering convictions resulted in clashes with several colleagues, including the esteemed Clark Gable. A notable conflict arose during the 1953 production of Hondo, directed by John Ford. Any prospects for a smooth collaboration between Wayne and Gable were overshadowed by Ford's harsh comments regarding Gable's age and appearance. This fostered a tense atmosphere and frequent arguments between the two actors on set. The situation deteriorated further when Ford extended his disrespectful behavior to Gable's co-star, Ava Gardner. Outraged by Ford's mistreatment and disregard for the cast's feelings, Gable repeatedly left the set. This ultimately led to the termination of his professional relationship with Ford. In her book John Wayne, My Father, Wayne's Daughter, Isa Wayne, illuminated the enduring animosity between Gable and Ford. Their hostility persisted for years, with Wayne consistently supporting Ford. Despite having no personal grievances with Gable, Wayne frequently spoke ill of him out of loyalty to Ford. He often complimented Gable's appearance in person, while his allegiance to Ford seemingly eclipsed any true admiration for the actor. While Wayne acknowledged Gable's physical appeal, he was also known to disparage his intellect. Wayne once famously remarked, "Gable's an idiot." Do you know why Gable's an actor? It's the only thing he's smart enough to do. These comments not only reveal Wayne's personal perspectives, but also invite a broader examination of how intelligence and talent are perceived within the film industry. It's worth noting that Wayne used a similar dismissive assessment for James Dean, stating Dean was an idiot acting as the only thing he's smart enough to do. Mickey Rooney. Mickey Rooney was celebrated for his youthful charisma. He was a prominent figure during Hollywood's golden age. He garnered 4 Academy Award nominations. His work with Judy Garland and his depiction of Andy Hardy symbolized post-war idealism and small-town innocence. They captivated audiences with their wholesome charm. However, Rooney's personal life sharply diverged from his clean-cut public image. His reputation was marred by struggles with gambling and substance abuse. Reports of his on-set misbehavior painted a troubling portrait. Allegations emerged that he utilized the notorious casting couch to audition young actresses for non-existent roles, exposing a more unsettling facet of his character. One particularly disturbing claim involves a purported relationship with a 14-year-old Elizabeth Taylor, while Rooney, then in his 20s, was already married. This allegation, which surfaced years later, directly contradicts the endearing and innocent personas he typically portrayed. Rooney was described as blisteringly bombastic, abrasive, and nasty. His professional demeanor was often far from cordial. Beyond the set, Rooney's unprofessional conduct persisted. After their collaboration on National Velvet in 1944, he criticized Taylor, labeling her entitled and dismissing her talent. Faye Dunaway. Recent reports from Page 6 detailed the unfortunate decline of 78-year-old film icon Faye Dunaway. She was dismissed from the play Tea at 5 due to allegations of erratic conduct, including physical aggression, emotional outbursts, and peculiar on-set demands. Concerns about Dunaway's behavior have been circulating for years. A particularly unsettling incident was recounted by Rutanya Alda from the 1981 production of Mommy Dearest. Alda claimed Dunaway physically struck her during a scene, stating, "Instead of doing a stage slap, she slapped me on the cheek, hard and for real." Other behind-the-scenes conflicts have also emerged. Paul Huntley, a Broadway wig designer, recalled an episode during the 1996 tour of Masterclass, where Dunaway allegedly slapped his assistant's hand out of frustration over hairpins, leaving the assistant stunned. Page 6 also revisited an assertion from Easy Rider's Raging Bulls, which alleged that during the 1974 filming of Chinatown, Dunaway demanded Teamsters flush her toilet. Further accusations suggested she relieved herself in trash cans and threw a cup of urine at director Roman Polanski when denied a bathroom break. Dunaway dismissed these claims, stating she had no recollection of such incidents and found them ridiculous. James Woods also shared a negative experience with Dunaway from the 1976 film The Disappearance of Amy, alleging she threw an object at him for improvising a line. He criticized her rudeness and unfavorably likened her to Bette Davis, who reportedly considered Dunaway among the worst individuals in Hollywood. Page 6 further noted Dunaway's difficulties memorizing lines for Tea at 5, an issue corroborated by singer Jill Sobole, who remembered Dunaway's conduct during the disappearance of Amy as being hours late in a foul mood, yelling at people and storming off the set, in a manner reminiscent of Valley of the Dolls. Robert Blake. The life of Robert Blake, one of Hollywood's legendary names, ended with a heartbreaking tragedy. Many wondered if art really imitates life. This famous actor, known for haunting roles, especially as a real-life killer in 1967's In Cold Blood, faced a cruel fate. His personal life took a similarly dark turn. In 1999, Blake married Bonnie Lee Backley. She was famous for her complicated past, often conning wealthy older men for money. Their marriage was tense from the start. Disaster was always near. In 2001, Bonnie was found dead in her car with a gunshot wound to the head. The gruesome nature of her death shocked the public. All eyes turned to Robert Blake. He was a beloved actor, but now he was arrested and charged with murder. The media frenzy began. Terrifying allegations surfaced. Blake was accused of trying to hire someone to kill Bonnie. The once-admired artist became the prime suspect in a murder case. Yet, when the criminal trial went to court, the jury found Blake not guilty. Many were stunned. The verdict divided opinion. Some believed in his innocence, others believed he had gotten away with murder. But the story didn't stop there. Bonnie's family sued Blake for wrongful death. They wanted justice. This time, the court ruled against Blake. He was held responsible for Bonnie's death, facing a $30 million judgment, a financial blow that ruined him. Robert Blake died in March 2023 at age 89 from heart disease. His dramatic life ended like a Hollywood script. Even after acquittal, doubt never faded. Blake's downfall is a haunting reminder. Sometimes life can imitate the darkest roles actors play in ways no one can predict. On a fateful morning, December 8th, gunshots shattered the peace at a luxury apartment complex in Los Angeles. It signaled a horrifying tragedy. Stephanie Mosley was a talented dancer and actress. She shone brightly in Hellcats and VH1's Hit the Floor. Her future promised so much more. But in a single moment, everything collapsed. Her husband, Earl Hayes, was a promising rapper with powerful industry ties, including a close friendship with boxing legend Floyd Mayweather Jr. Earl also lived in the spotlight, but underneath the glitter, a burning fire was smoldering. When police arrived, the scene was haunting. Both Stephanie and Earl were dead. Investigators confirmed Earl had taken Stephanie's life before ending his own. The tragedy deepened with reports that Floyd Mayweather was on FaceTime with Earl during the confrontation. Some sources revealed that Mayweather may have witnessed the entire event, powerless to intervene. Rumors spread about jealousy, mental breakdowns, and betrayal. Whispers about a past relationship involving Mayweather may have sparked Earl's collapse. News spread. Hollywood mourned. Jennifer Lopez, Ashley Tisdale, and Eva Marcille expressed deep sorrow. Eva called Stephanie an absolute angel. The pain was enormous. Shock was indescribable. The heartbreaking story of Stephanie Mosley and Earl Hayes remains a harsh reminder. It warns us about the importance of confronting mental health issues and fractures in relationships. Oscar Pistorius. The Blade Runner was a global symbol of resilience and triumph over adversity. He crushed a fairy tale and turned it into a nightmare. On Valentine's Day, 2013, Riva Steenkamp, a radiant, smart, and promising model, was brutally shot and killed at Oscar Pistorius' home in Ptorius, South Africa. Riva had impressed viewers on shows like Tropa Island of Treasure and Baking Made Easy. Her love story with Oscar Pistorius, the Olympian who raced on prosthetic legs, seemed magical. Their public appearances painted a perfect picture. But everything collapsed that fateful night. Riva locked herself in the bathroom. Pistorius fired several shots through the door, hitting her 3 times. He insisted he mistook Riva for an intruder and acted out of fear. But his story raised many questions, especially with the number of shots and no warning shot fired. The case became one of South Africa's most sensational trials, capturing worldwide attention. Pistorius' defense was doubted. The case sparked a bigger debate about gender-based violence. Initially, Ptorius was convicted of manslaughter in 2014 and given a 5-year sentence. The public was outraged, believing the sentence too light, but the story didn't end there. In 2015, the appeals court overturned the verdict, finding Ptorius guilty of murder. His sentence was raised from 6 to 13 years in prison. Riva's death left a deep mark and ignited important conversations about justice, domestic violence, and the need for systemic change. Released in 2024, Ptorius now lives quietly in Pretoria with his uncle. He will be supervised until 2029. He volunteers at a local church. He is reportedly dating Rita Grayling, a woman who looks strikingly like Riva. Was Oscar Pistorius' story shocking enough for you? If you want to see even more unbelievable names, comment 1 below and keep watching till the end. Red. Michael Jace. If you like to run, then run to heaven. These chilling final words, reportedly from Michael Jace, are etched in memory. They marked the end of an extraordinary woman's life and began a 40-year prison sentence. April Jace was vibrant and athletic. She ranked in the top 5 fastest female sprinters in the US in 2011. She won gold at the World Championships. Beyond her athletic achievements, April was a devoted mother and beloved community member, admired for her warmth and kindness. But her life took a tragic, violent turn in May 2014. On the night of May 19th, police were called to the Jace home in Hyde Park, Los Angeles. Neighbors reported gunshots. What they found shocked everyone. April Jace had been shot dead by her husband, actor Michael Jace, famous for playing a cop on FX's The Shield. The tragedy deepened because their 2 young sons were home during the shooting. Witnesses later said Michael Jace taunted April, deliberately shooting her in the legs before delivering the fatal shot. The calculated nature of the crime stunned investigators and the public. After the shooting, Jace texted April's mother. He confessed and asked her to come to the house. It was a cold, heartbreaking message no parent should ever receive. Michael Jace confessed almost immediately. The trial exposed the devastating impact of his actions, especially on their children. The court heard that his crime was deliberate and cruel, not a momentary loss of control. In 2016, Michael Jace was sentenced to 40 years for killing his wife. The case left a lasting mark, highlighting the often hidden dangers of domestic violence. April Jace's memory lives on. Her story is a harsh reminder of the urgent need to address and prevent such tragedies. Michael Jace, once hailed as a screen hero, now lives in disgrace behind the walls of Corcoran State Prison. Phil Hartman. Unbelievable! That was actress Rita Wilson's reaction. She was a close friend of Phil Hartman's family. Her words summed up the shock and disbelief that followed the tragic loss of the gifted comedian. Phil Hartman was beloved by millions for iconic roles in Saturday Night Live, The Simpsons, and News Radio. He could light up any room with a glance or a line. No one saw the darkness slowly enveloping his home. To the world, Phil and his wife Brynn seemed to have it all. A glamorous Hollywood lifestyle, a happy family, a perfect marriage. But reality was far from perfect. The ending would be an unimaginable tragedy. On May 28, 1998, the Hartman family home in Los Angeles became the center of a national tragedy. While Phil slept, Brynn took his life. She then ended her own. Their 2 young children were left alone in the house. The shock rippled through Hollywood and beyond. How could such horror strike such a beloved couple? Toxicology reports later revealed a worrying mix of substances in Brynn's system: alcohol, stimulants, and prescription antidepressants. Combined with years of marital strain, that night became one of the most devastating events in celebrity history. Those close to the family were devastated. Phil was known as a devoted father. Brynn, a loving mother. Nothing could explain it. That only deepened the pain. Albert Salmei. Salmei was a familiar face on Broadway and American television, known for his deep voice and masculine presence. On April 23, 1990, police sirens shattered the quiet at Albert's home in Spokane, Washington. No one expected the horrifying scene inside. The actor with the warm, deep voice and handsome looks, a beloved star on stage and screen, was gone. Both Albert Salmei and his wife Roberta were found dead. Later investigation revealed the heartbreaking truth. Salmei had shot Roberta before ending his own life. This brutal act shocked everyone. Further investigation uncovered months of tension and simmering arguments between Albert and Roberta, especially over financial issues and personal differences. Close friends said Salmei was private. He hid his emotions, which may have caused pressure to build inside him. Tragically, that pressure exploded in violence. The entertainment world was left with a lasting scar. Salmei's death is a haunting reminder. Fame does not always shield people from pain, and invisible struggles can have devastating consequences. Gig Young. Just 3 weeks after marrying his 5th wife, Kim Schmidt, the life of acclaimed actor Gig Young ended in heartbreaking tragedy. Both were found dead in their luxury Manhattan apartment on October 19, 1978. Young was the image of classic Hollywood success. Handsome, charming, and critically acclaimed. He won an Oscar for his haunting role in They Shoot Horses, Don't They? And a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. He seemed untouchable, but behind the camera, his personal life was unraveling. According to police inside the Osborne apartment, Young was found face down on the bedroom floor, clutching a .38 revolver. Kim's body was nearby. A diary found at the scene described a recent happy wedding, with no hint of the coming darkness. Neighbors recalled strange noises around 2:30 p.m. that day, but the bodies weren't discovered until 5 hours later. For those close to Young, the tragedy was not entirely unexpected. He had battled alcoholism and mental health issues for years. He even sought help from doctor. Eugene Landy, a psychologist, later criticized for unconventional treatments. After Young's death, his body was taken to Beverly Hills for the funeral, then buried under his birth name in Waynesville, North Carolina with his family. His estate, worth $200,000, included the Oscar he left to his agent's wife. Decades later, Young's daughter Jennifer succeeded in reclaiming the award. In 1965, actress Faye DeWitt became embroiled in public scandal after being charged with killing her ex-husband, famous playwright Ray Allen. But the truth was far more complicated than initial reports suggested. Just a month earlier, Faye and Ray had divorced. Ray, long troubled by alcoholism and violence, showed up at Faye's home drunk and furious. He broke in, clearly intent on causing harm. Faye, alone and terrified, feared for her life. As Ray advanced, she acted in self-defense. During the chaotic struggle, she grabbed a letter opener. In the heat of the moment, Ray was fatally stabbed. What began as self-defense quickly escalated into an unthinkable tragedy. Faye was arrested and charged with causing Ray's death. The circumstances raised questions, but as the investigation unfolded, the truth became clear. Evidence showed Ray was the aggressor. Faye was injured during the break-in. Witnesses confirmed Ray's violent behavior, supporting Faye's claim of self-defense. With these revelations, charges were quickly dropped, and she was acquitted. The media sensationalized and judged her harshly, but Faye resumed her acting career. Even at age 90, Faye DeWitt refused to fade away. In 2024, she returned to the screen as Jan V. Michael in A Man on the Inside, and in 2023, impressed audiences on stage in 70, Girls 70. Her resilience and artistry proved that true talent never disappears. Spade Koul. On April 3, 1961, Ella Mae's life ended in tragedy after a violent fight with her husband, Spade Koul. The Western swing music star and TV personality became a condemned killer. Koul was arrested after a brutal confrontation with his wife. Their marriage had been troubled for some time, with reports of physical abuse and mental anguish. During the fierce argument, Koul, reportedly drunk, lost his temper. In the confrontation, he inflicted serious harm on Ella Mae. She suffered severe injuries and was later found dead. At first, Koul claimed Ella Mae took her own life, but the evidence said otherwise. Investigators quickly uncovered the truth. Ella Mae was the victim of a violent attack, and Koul was arrested and charged with her death. Spade Koul was convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison. His once promising career, which soared in the 1940s and 1950s, collapsed. He spent years behind bars before being paroled in 1972. Despite serving his sentence, Koul's legacy as a musician and performer was overshadowed by the horrific events of his private life. This tragedy remains one of Hollywood's darkest chapters of downfall. Ray Kuth. Kuth stopped his car in front of me, blocking me. Another car pulled up, and someone inside started shooting. These words came from Cherika Adams' desperate 911 call. She was the victim who exposed Ray Kuth, former NFL player for the Carolina Panthers, in one of the most shocking sports cases ever. On November 16, 1999, Cherika, pregnant with Kuth's child, was shot several times while sitting in her car near his Charlotte, North Carolina home. She managed to call 911 and told the dispatcher that Kuth blocked her, then fled the scene as another car arrived and gunfire erupted. Cherica was rushed to the hospital. Doctors performed emergency surgery to save her baby boy, Chancellor Lee Adams. Sadly, despite every effort, Cherica slipped into a coma and died a month later. Kuth's actions after the shooting immediately raised suspicions. He posted $3 million bail, but when Cherica died, he fled, violating his release conditions. Police later found him hiding in a car trunk in Tennessee with cash, clothes, and other items. At trial, Kuth's defense argued the shooting was related to a failed drug deal. The jury disagreed. He was found guilty of conspiracy to commit murder, shooting into an occupied vehicle and using an instrument to destroy a fetus. He received nearly 19 years in prison. After 18 years, he was released in 2018. He apologized publicly to Cherica's mother, who raised Chancellor as her own. Despite a troubled past, Chancellor grew up strong and resilient. His story is a reminder of how one man's actions can deeply affect many lives. Faye DeWitt. William S. Burroughs. A dangerous game inspired by William Tell ended in ultimate tragedy. It ended Joan Vollmer's life and haunted her husband, writer William S. Burroughs, forever. One fateful night in 1951 in Mexico City, Burroughs was living with Joan. A terrible incident changed his life for good. Their relationship was strained by Burroughs' benzodiazepine addiction and Joan's struggles with alcohol and amphetamines. After a night of drinking, Burroughs, reportedly drunk, suggested a dangerous game. He asked Joan to put a glass on her head so he could shoot it off. Tragedy struck. Burroughs missed. The bullet hit Joan in the head, killing her instantly. He claimed the gun went off accidentally as he dropped it, but witnesses and evidence contradicted his story. He was arrested and charged with criminal negligence manslaughter. Burroughs spent 13 days in jail before his brother arranged bail through a bribe. The case was postponed indefinitely and Burroughs fled Mexico. He was convicted in absentia and received a 2-year suspended sentence. Simpson. If it doesn't fit, you must acquit. This famous line from attorney Johnny Cochran became the hallmark of O.J. Simpson's trial. It was one of the most controversial and famous legal cases in American history, dividing the nation. O.J. Simpson, former NFL star and actor, was accused of murdering his ex-wife Nicole Brown Simpson and her friend Ronald Goldman on June 12, 1994, outside Nicole's Los Angeles home. The trial started in January 1995 and lasted 8 months. It drew massive media attention. Simpson's defense team, the Dream Team, included top lawyers like Johnny Cochran and Robert Shapiro. They attacked the LAPD's racist history and mishandling of evidence, especially DNA. After months of argument, the jury acquitted Simpson on October 3, 1995. The verdict stunned many. The case split the country. Most African Americans saw it as a victory against racial injustice. Many white Americans believed Simpson was guilty. Although acquitted in the criminal trial, Simpson was found liable in a civil suit in 1997 and ordered to pay $33.5 million, though most of that remains unpaid. O.J. Simpson died on April 10, 2024, at 76, after a private battle with prostate cancer. His death reopened old wounds and reignited fierce debate. Was he a symbol of racial injustice, or a man who escaped responsibility? Even in death, the shadow of his trial refuses to fade. Benoit. On June 25, 2007, a horrifying scene revealed the dark secret behind one of professional wrestling's most beloved icons. Police found the bodies of Chris Benoit, his wife Nancy, and their 7-year-old son Daniel at their home in Fayette County, Georgia. All had been violently killed. Investigators quickly reached a shocking conclusion. Benoit had murdered his wife and son before taking his own life. News spread fast. Fans and the public were stunned. How could a man so devoted to his family and career fall into such darkness? Experts soon found that Benoit had suffered serious brain injuries from years of intense wrestling. These injuries, plus depression and substance abuse, may have contributed to his loss of control. Still, the big question remains. What drove Benoit, a loving family man, to such horror? Chris Benoit's tragedy isn't just about brutal murder. It's about the lasting damage of physical and mental health struggles. His promising wrestling career ended tragically. WWE and its fans were left with a black mark. Benoit's story is a grim warning about the price of relentless physical and mental stress and the danger when such struggles are ignored. Jovan Belcher. On November 30th, 2012, a furious argument shattered the calm of Jovan Belcher's home. The Kansas City Chiefs linebacker ended it with gunfire and 2 lives lost, leaving a child orphaned. Jovan seemed to have it all: a promising football career, a young family, and a supportive community. But underneath, his relationship with girlfriend Cassandra Perkins was tense. After Cassandra returned home around 1 a.m. from a concert, a fight erupted. Friends later revealed arguments were common for the couple, and this one escalated quickly. After leaving the house, Jovan was found by police around 2:50 a.m. at another woman's apartment. He was calm and showed no signs of losing control. Officers let him stay, but when he returned home, another confrontation began. Then came tragedy. Jovan, in an unbelievable moment of violence, shot Cassandra in front of his mother, who had moved in to help care for their 3-month-old daughter, Zoe. After the shooting, Jovan drove to the Chiefs' practice facility and confessed his actions to team officials. Moments later, with police arriving, he ended his own life, leaving his daughter without parents. Autopsy reports showed high blood alcohol in Jovan. Later studies confirmed he suffered from CTE, a serious brain condition linked to repeated head trauma. The Chiefs played their scheduled game the next day, observing a moment of silence for domestic violence victims, though they didn't specifically mention the tragedy. Was Jovan Belcher a victim of mental illness, or simply a cold-blooded killer? Comment yes if you feel sympathy, no if you think there's no excuse. Share your thoughts. Sid Vicious. Sid Vicious, bassist of punk legends. The Sex Pistols lived a life of chaos and self-destruction. It ended tragically. His relationship with Nancy Spungen was troubled and famously volatile. On October 12, 1978, the punk world was shaken. Nancy Spungen was found dead with a fatal stab wound in their New York hotel room. The night before, the couple had hosted a wild party with heavy drug use, noise, and people coming and going all night. Sid, under the influence and nearly unconscious, drifted in and out of awareness. By morning, Nancy was gone. Sid, found stumbling and confused in the hallway, gave conflicting statements. At first, he took responsibility. Then he said he didn't remember. He even suggested Nancy fell on the knife during an argument. Sid was arrested and charged with second-degree murder. The chaotic scene and many people present led his defense to argue others could have been involved. The case was never resolved. Awaiting trial, Sid's life spiraled further. After a failed suicide attempt, he lost his battle with drugs at a party on February 2, 1979, dying at 21. Sid Vicious became the symbol of punk's darkest side, a rising star devoured by his own chaos. The tragic end and the unanswered questions about Nancy's death left a legacy stained with sorrow. O.J. Russell Neal. On July 2, 2014, Russell Neal, a member of the famous R&B group High Five, walked into a Houston police station. Calmly, he reported that his wife was dead. It was a cold, emotionless confession. It ended his music career forever. High Five once brought joy to countless fans with hits like I Like the Way and The Kissing Game. But no one imagined Russell would become linked to a shocking crime. He offered few details and did not resist arrest. He simply stated the fact of his wife's death. Police later found Catherine Martinez, his 24-year-old wife, dead at their home. Catherine was a young mother of 2 boys, ages 3 and 4. Thankfully, the children were unharmed. They were placed with Russell's mother, but the trauma of losing their mother so violently would haunt them for life. News of Catherine's death stunned neighbors and those close to the couple. Neighbor Raymond Batista told CBS, "They seemed like a happy couple. It's shocking." However, events soon revealed a much darker relationship. Russell's agency, Braun's Most Wanted Entertainment, quickly cut ties with him. They made it clear that Russell was no longer a group member and would not be part of future projects. The music industry, once welcoming Russell as part of a popular group, now faced the harsh truth. Fame can hide many things, but not always the truth. After Russell Neal's cold-blooded crime, where are you watching us from? Comment your country and let's see how far this shocking story has spread. Tom Neal. Tom Neal was famous for his role in the classic noir film Detour, 1945. He embodied mid-century cool, a rising star with a boxer's build and a movie star face. But beneath the public image was a stormy private life. He was quick-tempered and prone to violent outbursts. That anger reached a tragic breaking point on October 2, 1965. In a heated fight with his wife, Gail Bennett, everything spiraled out of control. In a fit of rage, Neal grabbed a gun. That act ended Gail's life instantly. Authorities arrived at the scene and found something far removed from Neal's on-screen glamour. He claimed it was an accident, that he never meant it, but those close to him knew the truth was far more complicated. Behind closed doors, Tom had a troubled past. Friends described him as a man struggling to control his emotions, with a history of violence in relationships. His marriage with Gail was far from perfect, rife with jealousy and fierce arguments. The legal battle that followed destroyed his Hollywood image, revealing a much darker man than fans ever imagined. He was convicted and sentenced. Neal's career ended. By 1972, Tom Neal's story closed quietly and tragically. Alone, disgraced, and forgotten. Years after his release, he died with no attention, his name erased from the industry he once dominated. Even now, whispers of his fall haunt Hollywood's most tragic cautionary tales. Claudine Longet. March 21, 1976, in Aspen, Colorado, should have been a cozy dinner night. Instead, Vladimir Spider Sabich's life ended suddenly with a bullet. Standing nearby was his lover, French-American singer-actress Claudine Longet. She had once lived in luxury and fame, appearing perfect beside famous husband Andy Williams. Everything changed after that tragedy. Claudine claimed it was an accident. She said Sabich was showing her how to use the gun, and it went off. Prosecutors disagreed. They argued that evidence did not support her story. For instance, Sabich was found bent forward, back turned to her, at a distance inconsistent with just demonstrating how to hold a gun. This raised serious questions. Was the shooting an accident or something more deliberate? The Claudine Longet case became a dramatic legal saga. However, investigators made serious mistakes. They took Claudine's blood and seized her diary without proper warrants. These errors meant crucial evidence could not be used in court. There were traces of illegal drugs in Claudine's system. Her diary showed tension with Sabich. All this evidence was dismissed. Even the gun was mishandled, making the case against her more difficult. In the end, Claudine was convicted of negligent homicide, a much lighter charge than many expected. Her sentence was only a small fine and 30 days in jail, served on weekends so she could be with her children. Public criticism grew after it was revealed that Claudine later vacationed with her defense lawyer, Ronald D. Austin, who was married at the time. They eventually wed, and Claudine moved to Aspen to live with him for years. The Sabich family filed a civil suit, later settled privately on the condition Claudine never publicly discussed the killing or the settlement. Now, you know, the glamour of Hollywood hides a legacy of cruelty, manipulation, and shattered lives. Some of these icons built empires but left devastation behind the scenes. Do you think these stories will change how you see your favorite stars forever? Or is darkness simply the price of fame? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Share who shocked you most, and don't forget to subscribe for more untold truths from the world behind the spotlight. Hollywood's secrets run deep, and we've only just scratched the surface.